Engage, the Family Gaming Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Engage, a Family Gaming Podcast. This is episode 105, and I am your host, Stephen Dutzman, as always. This is the official video game and board game podcast for EngageFamilyGaming.com. EFG is a website where parents like myself and all of my co-hosts come together to give parents and families the information they need to get their family game on. This week, it's all about board games. Specifically, we're talking about the Boston Festival of Independent Games, and it is a very special day because we have a new podcaster, a super fan turned contributor turned, we got to do it right. It's super fan turned guest writer turned regular contributor turned now you go to conventions with me. It's Linda Wrobel. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you.
So, some of you may have heard her voice in a message that was played during the 100th episode. Now, what Linda did not know is that by proving that she could record her voice adequately, that meant she was going to get stuck on the podcast every once in a while. So, the joke's on you, Linda. So, before we get started, everybody, I do want to take a moment, as I always do, to thank you for listening. We hope the games that you've been playing have been great. We want to make sure our podcast is as interactive as possible, so please feel free to reach out to us on social media or to email us at efgpodcast@engagefamilygaming.com with any comments, questions, or topic suggestions. We are nearing the point of the year where we're going to need topics, so give them to us. Another great place to get them to us is to head on over to the Facebook community. That's engagefamilygaming.com/community. Join in the fun there. The group is growing pretty quickly recently, and you can give us topic ideas there. This week, as many of you know, we always alternate video games, board games. Last week was kind of a hodgepodge. We did a little bit of both. This time, we're sticking straight to the board games because that is what the people wanted. And specifically, they wanted to hear about our trip to the Boston Festival of Independent Games, specifically talking about the board games that we saw. You looked at / played a lot of stuff.
I did.
You were like a machine. And this was also your second convention ever?
Yes.
So the first one you went to was the Connecticut Festival of Independent Games, which was basically held at the Tabletop Shop in Newington, Connecticut. Very small, very simple. It was basically just, it infested a friendly local board game shop. This was like an actual thing.
It was quite an experience as the second time going to a convention of any sort.
Yeah, and then in a month, we're going to PAX Unplugged, and not only are you going to be at PAX Unplugged, but we will be working the booth for Restoration Games, because somehow they asked us to, and we get to sell games. I think that's going to be my job, at least. Pretty sure that's what you're going to be doing too. So that'll be an interesting little experience. And that's going to be way bigger. Spoiler alert.
I'm ready.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. So, I guess the first thing we should do is I'm going to explain what BFIG is. And then I want you to kind of explain like your experience there before we get into the meat of the topic. Because I think that kind of the stuff you saw and just your overall like take on the event would be interesting to parents out there, being you are, like a representative mom. You're not like one of these hardcore gamers. You're like a regular person. So for those that do not know, the Boston Festival of Independent Games is run by a independent game group, a collective, if you will, in Boston, obviously. It is run at MIT in their athletics complex, which is always interesting on Saturdays. There was no football players, but there was a lot of lacrosse players. It is split between video games and board games. There is a video game showcase that is upstairs on their indoor track. The board game showcase is downstairs on what I believe to be like a deck hockey area. I'm not really sure. But all the board games are set up. And, you can just kind of go up and down the stairs and do the stuff. It is not huge. It's certainly a one-day event that you can definitely do in one day if you're focused. Or if you don't care that you don't see everything. But Linda went in with a singular purpose of seeing as many, if not all, of the board games as possible, and it feels to me like you achieved that goal, Linda.
I did. I think there were roughly 40 different games that were being showcased, and I think I saw 35 of them and got at the very least the elevator pitch on the game.
All right. Yeah, you did make a point to tell me that there were a few games that were going to be coming to Kickstarter like next year, and that we were probably going to have opportunities to see those games later. So we really prioritized the games that were where this might be our only shot or our last shot before they either went on Kickstarter or released, etc. So as as we arrived, we drove in, we took a perfect T-ride in with my oldest son, and we took a short walk to school, which was really not very bad. Getting there was painless. I was surprised. So as you kind of got our badges and walked in, what did you think? What were your thoughts?
So my first thought was just sort of getting an overview of what I was looking at, and there were quite a lot of table setup. They had aisle set up in the center of this arena, basically, so that you could work your way around. There were sponsor tables on the perimeter, and it was really neat. It seemed like they had somewhat grouped some of the games, whether intentionally or unintentionally, by theme. There was one group I found where literally it was like four corners together where it was all food-based games. There was a lot of alien-themed games, and again, they seemed to somewhat be clustered, which was a bit entertaining. But overall, it wasn't too overwhelming feeling. The room is, it's a sports arena, so it's for college, college smaller games. So it's not huge. It didn't feel overwhelming as somebody who has never gone to a large convention. So the scale of it was actually pretty comfortable. I didn't feel like, how am I going to cover this? Or, like I was going to get lost. It was pretty well organized and on a smaller scale than I was concerned it was going to be.
Yeah, I will admit that is why I wanted to bring you there, as a nice little warm-up. There wasn't an echo. No. Like, it wasn't that kind of building where it's like you're just feeling the noise of humanity around you. It was busy, but it wasn't crazy. So that's one of the reasons I like it. It's very cozy.
Yes.
And another thing I like about it is all the people there are really excited. Like, everybody is there with their baby. These are not like mass market games. These are people who are there with their pet game. The game they've been working on for years, some of which they've been working on their whole lives practically. Obviously, there were some, bigger fish there, but most of those people there it was very interesting to see them bring their babies out, and get praise or not. So, you made a list.
I did.
You made several lists, but that's good because that's what I told you to do. And one of them was a list of the games that you thought were the ones that we were most, that you specifically were anticipating, the ones that you were the most looking forward to getting your hands on after the event. So, why don't we just go down them? What I'll do,
sure.
I'll list them off. You gave me a decent list. You gave me a little blurb. I will do a dramatic reading, and then I'd like to hear kind of what your experience with it was.
Okay.
So, the first one that you listed, did you put these in any particular order, or was this just
did.
Okay?
Nope, that is ranked. Number one is the one I'm most anticipating, and it goes in order. Sorry, my Type A personality was showing.
So they're in alphabetical order, though.
Then you're looking at the different lists. So I have two different lists. I had my blurb list, which was alphabetized, and my top 10 list which is numbered, is in actual order. So the one that with the top 10 is the one that starts with Rainbow Octopus.
Okay. Wait. All right. So let me get there, because the most anticipated games from BFIG. Then I have to go look at a different list.
Yes. So yes.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
I listed that one alphabetically, and then the top ones, because we had two different discussions.
All right, that's
fine.
Sorry. All right, and I know that you're there because we're in the Google
release.
Drive, and I see the one that you're looking at right now. So let's talk about it. Rainbow Octopus. So this is a very clearly a children's game. They're trying to find a publisher right now. Yes. And I thought it was pretty adorable. when I looked at it, basically you are building an octopus. It's a draw and play game, card game, a la like Uno and stuff like that. What was your experience with this game?
So it was really it was fun. There were different layers to it. So on each octopus, you get the core body, and the objective of the game is to get 8 legs for the octopus that are each in a different color. So there are 8 different colors that you need to acquire. There are wilds, so they have some appendages that are wild cards essentially. Each octopus on one side, it has like a special superpower that you can use on your turn, or each one is a little different, so you can, depending on which one you take, you get a different superpower. But the nice thing is if you flip it over, it's just a blank side. So if you're playing with really young children, you can omit the superpower and just make it a simple draw and get one of each color. So I like the way it's scaled. There's also a deck that is high tide and low tide. And on your turn, you have to draw and you choose either high tide or low tide. And from there, it causes something to happen.
Okay.
And the high tide ones being high tide or more dramatic, and the low tide ones are more calm. So you decide if you want a calm event or a more exciting event.
Okay.
So I sat and played with 2 other gentlemen, and we played through it in probably 10 to 15 minutes. And it was a fun, nice, light game that I could see scaling really easily down to 4-year-olds, even 3-year-olds if they're good with their colors.
Sure. Sounds great. Again, this is one of those games that we're going to be keeping our eye on because he wasn't going to Kickstarter. He's not going to Indiegogo. He's looking for a publisher. I don't suspect that he will have a problem finding one. So this is one of those ones that we're going to have on our site, write about it. It's going to live there. And then eventually we're going to see a notification that it's getting published by somebody and they're going to make a lot of money because this is going to be an easy to sell game. Just because, you put some colorful art on there and it'll just go crazy. So, hopefully a publisher will find it, because, it's, easy money at this point, from what I can see. So next was Firetower. Man, we played that game at CT-FIG and it still looks great. Nothing's really all that different, right? I mean, it's pretty much...
No, they're still anticipating a Kickstarter in the fall.
Yep.
So, from what I could tell, it was pretty much the same as when we played it at the beginning of the summer. It was a game that we got to play. We really enjoyed. The mechanics of it were easy to learn, and it was just an entertaining, again, not very heavy game.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely.
It has a spinner in it, which I know immediately turns a lot of people off. They don't like spinners, but it's fine. It's fine, guys. The spinner is supposed to represent the wind, which is kind of random sometimes, so just roll with it. I think the best part of this game is just the board. I want to frame it.
The board is really, really pretty. And the components for the fire, I just like the pieces they were able to find for it. Those were really neat.
So who knows what the final game will look like, but this is one of those games that I have a feeling will do very well on Kickstarter. We will be talking about it more as the Kickstarter goes live. But this is, like I said, it's cool. This game was so crowded, I could not even talk to them. Like, I wanted to, and they were looking for me, but I could not find them. So that's Firetower. Again, if you want a more detailed look and discussion of that game, kind of look on back towards our podcast from CT-FIG, because I talk about it a little bit there. And again, we're gonna be talking about this one again when their Kickstarter goes live, because I want this to succeed, mainly because I want to play it. So, Cake Duel.
This one was so
with the
cute.
sheepies, right?
This is the sheepy one.
This game clearly... Wait, before you describe it...
All right.
This is my color commentary. I'm going to be the Dennis Miller to your, just to fill you in and to give everyone the behind the scenes. So you're going to be the straight man.
I'm shocked.
And I'm going to be the color commentator. So Cake Duel with the sheepies. Yeah, anyone that knows us should not be surprised that we're going to fall into that role. But I'm normally the color commentator, even though I'm the host. I do things a little different around here. So, Cake Duel is a 2-player bluffing game.
Yes.
So it's really a test of how well you can lie to your friends. And it's about sheepies, which are sheep, but they're like battle sheep. Because they're like fighting, right? Over cake?
Yes. So they're you're you're trying to defeat each other so you can get the cake. And so you get 5 cards. You draw 5 cards, and on your card you have different kinds of sheepies, and they can be archers, they can be defenders, they can be I'm trying to think the other, going back to my notes, archers, wizards, and based on that, so then you need to, this is where the bluffing comes in, so you take your cards and your opponent doesn't see them obviously, and you say, well, I'm going to put up 3 archers, and you put 3 cards face down, and then the other person can decide if they can defeat you, and they can put up 3 or more cards to defeat you, and they're going to say whether they have 3 defenders or 4 defenders, whatever, to try to defeat you, and you can call each other's bluff at any time. And then there's different benefits and consequences depending on if you're telling the truth or not, or if you call a bluff and they're lying or not. So it was really, really simple to learn. Literally was able to pick it up in a couple minutes, and the hands play very quickly. It is actually out for pre-orders on their website right now. It was a Kickstarter. It has funded, so it is something that you can get at this time through a pre-order. The artwork is super cute, like very colorful, very cartoony.
This is definitely one that you shouldn't play with. This is tough to play with mixed ages, I think.
I think so too.
If I was playing with a 4-year-old, like, I would know when they were lying.
Yes.
So, but then again, if you're not lying, then it's just war.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, war is a game that children can play. So this game does scale. I definitely appreciate the art. All their videos, like, this game has a lot of personality. It was very clearly made by a bunch of college friends, you know? And I love that about it. So that is Cake Duel. Next is On Their Merry Way, and I did not see this game at all.
Okay. So this one was super, super cute. It's a Robin Hood themed game.
Okay.
They recommend it for around 10 and up. It's a resource management game, and there's also a little bit of programmed movement to it. So the way the game works is you are trying to, essentially, the Robin Hood steal from the rich as they go through on their caravan. And so as they go down, they're going down the path in a certain direction. So on your turn, you're setting traps. But the program movement comes in is that the traps set off in a certain order. Yeah. And once it's set off, it can't happen again. So you have to have some planning. It's managing your resources with the traps and trying to catch them. From what I could see with this game, it looked like a lot of fun for older children. And the theme was Robin Hood. It's a very popular theme. The artwork was really cute on it. So this was just one. They're looking to come to Kickstarter early spring, maybe in the March area of this coming year. So that just seemed like one that could really be a lot of fun for families with older children.
Sure. So now I get it. On Their Merry Way, because they're the merry men. I get it.
Exactly. It's the Robin Hood theme.
That's a pretty good dad joke. I'll take it. So next is Visitor in Blackwood Grove. This is another one that I don't remember.
Okay. So this one is...
I spent a lot of time in the video game section, so this is not to disparage these games. Linda and I divided and conquered. So what's up with Visitor in Blackwood Grove? Okay,
so Visitor in Blackwood Grove is a logic game. It's an alien theme, hence Visitor. And the premise of it is that there is a kid that is trying to help an alien before the agents get him. So it's sort of an E.T. reference without being E.T. So it has a little bit of an 80s vibe to it. So the game just completed its Kickstarter. It's in production. He's actually expecting it to be on Amazon and in local game shops, hopefully by February of this coming year.
Okay.
Yes. So that was really neat. It's super cute because what the idea is, the way the game is played, you've got the boy. One person plays the boy, and people are playing the agents, and you're trying to give clues onto different objects that somebody's thinking about, and so there's this logical reasoning that's happening.
Yep.
And if you guess correctly, it can pass through the force field, and it was a really neat concept in the game, something I haven't really encountered before. It was very easy to understand. The gameplay seemed pretty simple on it. So it seemed like something fun if you're like that kind of ET-esque 80s theme, something worth checking out.
So, who is guessing? So, tell me about this whole... Who's giving clues?
So, I'm trying to remember now because I had a lot that went through all at once. So with this one, I'm trying to go back to my notes, see if I have any more. I don't have a lot of notes on this one. I went through it kind of quick with the developer.
Yep.
So if I remember correctly, I think it's both players. So the agents are trying to guess what the aliens, like thinking of sort of as with the clues, and the kid also is, but there's there's bonuses that different players get based on different factors. Okay. So I have to be very honest, I don't really know a lot of the nuances of the gameplay, but I have sort of a general overview of it. Okay.
Well, we will post a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes.
Okay.
So that way we can take a look at it.
Okay.
Because I'll if you're interested in it, I am, and also ET is a fun kind of thing. So next we have Battlecats, the compound deck building game. Mm-hmm. I found this one really interesting because the idea of a compound deck building game is one that has not existed before. Basically, he spent a good portion of his pitch at the event just explaining what a compound deck building game was. Essentially, as opposed to a deck builder where you are building your deck, everyone is building the same deck in Battlecats. Otherwise, it plays just like a deck builder. You earn points that you use to buy cards. The difference is you're buying cards and adding them to the collective deck. Did you get a chance to play this one?
I did not get a chance to play it, but I was able to speak with the developer for a little bit, and he was explaining the compound deck building mechanic to me. He explained a little bit of the gameplay of it, on how when you're playing, you can wound each other, and different abilities on the cards give you different powers, and that you can team up with other players, but you're allies, but you're not really. So okay. There's some complexity to that. The way he described it, the in-the-game alliances are encouraged, as well as breaking those alliances is encouraged. So it's got this interesting duality of it's really not a cooperative game, but it has some elements of cooperation in it.
All right. So, essentially, folks, what happens here is you deal out like 16 cards off the top of the deck, and then you resolve the cards in the order that they are dealt. Every player represents like a color. This is like a school of martial artists. And so, if more of your cards come up, you get to take more turns, but you don't want to just put in lots of low-value cards, because while you might take lots of turns, you may not be able to do much with them. So you have to make value judgments and decisions, which I think is kind of interesting. So that is Battlecats. Now this is one, it's not going to Kickstarter, it's not going to Indiegogo. He is looking for a publisher. Mm-hmm. I don't know who's going to pick it up. This is definitely one that I think with maybe a better theme or better art, maybe could be like a Game Right thing, or maybe one of the bigger publishers might be able to grab it and do something. But we'll probably see it because he'll be persistent. But it was interesting. I got a chance to play a few hands, okay, and I thought it was interesting. It was something to do. I am leery of how complicated the compound deck building thing would be in practice, especially when playing in mixed company. Because not everybody, when you're building your own deck, at least it kind of works, right? But when you're interacting with everybody else, there's it adds a little bit of extra to it that it makes you wonder.
Right. And this is one that I'm not a deck builder gamer at this time, so it was a challenge not having that background looking at this game. It's one that I think if I went to sit down and play it, there would be a bit of a more significant learning curve for me to learn this game, but it did seem very appealing.
Yeah, I knew that. That's why I played it. Because I figured that it would be in your blind spot. So next is Crinimals.
Yes.
What? I don't even get. Is this a pun? It
is a total pun. Criminal animals. Yes, right. It is a total pun. This game is actually currently on Indiegogo. It launched the day of the Boston Festival of Independent Games.
How's it doing?
Last I checked, they were already half funded, so they're doing well.
Let's go look now.
So while you're looking, I can describe it. I did not get a chance to sit down and play it because every time I went back, the table was full of children playing it. So I stood for a while and I watched them playing. The premise of this game is that you have 4 criminals, criminal animals, that are trying to escape the jail, and whoever basically gets out of jail first and stays out of jail first wins. So the game's about rated for 8 and up. The artwork on it was cute. Like I said, every time I went over there, the table was full of children playing, and they seemed to be having a blast with it.
So he's at 78%.
Wow.
Of his 10,000 gold. He's got 17 days left. That's not bad. So, yeah, I think it looks cute too. I did not see this game. Not really sure, but I mean, it's definitely classified as a family game, 2 to 4 players, 15 minutes, so it's obviously pretty quick. I'm happy to hear that there were a lot of kids playing. That's one thing I did like about that convention. There were a lot of kids there.
There were.
Not including the ones we brought, or the one we brought. So, on the home stretch, few more. What is the deal with Empyrean, the Battles of Raphian?
I don't even know. I'm not even sure how that last part is. When I talked to them, they just were calling it Empyrean.
Okay.
So that one is, they're planning to come to Kickstarter next month. That one, I'm going back to my notes on that. I did not get to play that one again. Every time I went back, there were people playing. It's a 2-player card game. And it was described to me by the designer as Magic meets Risk.
Okay.
So it is very complicated looking, especially, again, being somebody that does not play the deck building card games. I got kind of a quick overview of this game, but it looked really promising on the different elements for those people looking for a card game that it's not a deck builder. It's, you buy the deck and it's all self-contained, which is
but
very appealing.
It's got a strong strategy element, like on a board.
Exactly. There was a large map they were playing on with different elements that they were dealing with. Apparently, from what he was describing to me, to give it a different spin, it's pitting tech abilities against magical abilities. So
Sure.
Something a little different. The people that I was watching play through this really seemed very engaged by it. It was mostly older teenagers and up I saw playing. Again, it looked pretty complicated, but for people that are in like Magic, and I know that runs more of a gamut of ages, I think this would be something they could pick up more easily because of their background knowledge of that.
Yeah.
And then it has a different spin on it, and then you're not spending more money to get certain cards. And I think the goal over time is to have packs, like you buy a whole, like, I'm trying to think of the word. I'm having word retrieval right now.
No, I know what they're going for. So if
you know
I
what they're
may
going.
help, they're going for kind of like a living card game. What that means for us, and we're actually going to have an article up on the site within the next month or so, as we have our card game guy working on it, basically talking about the different kind of card games. So, like, a collectible card game is you buy booster packs that are blind, right? And so you don't know what cards are in them. Whereas with a living card game, you buy a box and it has set cards in it, and you can use it to make constructed decks and, build it just like Magic. Only when you buy the box, you buy the whole set. All the cards that you need are in there. And as they release expansions, you can buy all the cards. So they may have an expansion that is literally 15 cards.
Right.
And
but that's all that you need.
Pay $10 and you get those 15 cards, and they change a whole bunch of stuff. That's what they're going for here-ish. They don't want blind stuff. They want to slowly expand the game. The big key is you're using cards like in Magic, but you're also using those cards almost like miniatures on a map. Which is, there is another game that's out that's somewhat like that. It's called Berserk. We've talked about it before. I wasn't a fan of Berserk, but part of that was because it was on a fixed board and some of the cards were just poorly written. So hopefully these guys have some balance stuff going on, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they seem like they build a whole world. I went on the website to learn more about this, and the amount of backstory that they're creating for this game is intense. There's a ton of backstory and world that they're creating around this. So they've put a lot into this.
I agree. I thought the art, on some of their, like the art on their backdrop and stuff was pretty awesome. So. That's Empyrean, the Battles of Ralph. I want to say Ralph Fiennes, but it's not Ralph Fiennes.
No,
it's Raphaine, or something. We'll find out because we'll probably be talking to them closer to their Kickstarter. Next is Status Report. And this is another one that I don't remember.
Okay. So Status Report is a social deduction game. It's got a science fiction theme, and this one was really a neat idea. The premise is that the captain is trapped on their ship with malfunctioning artificial intelligence, their robots, and it's a very quick game. It's played in 8 rounds, but everybody plays their hand and does their thing simultaneously. So the whole game, even with 8 rounds, only takes 20 minutes. So it's a very quick game going through. It's a 3 to 7 player game, which I was intrigued by the fact that you can go up to 7 players. That's something you don't see often.
Yeah.
So this was another game that I was watching play, but I did not get a chance to because it was very busy.
Yeah.
I chatted with the developer for a little while, and so I didn't get a lot about the nuances of the gameplay, but just a little bit that I could see. It looked like a lot of fun. Again, really going fast through it. And this one is slated to come to Kickstarter this November, so very soon.
Yeah.
If all goes according to plan.
A lot of these are kind of turning out to be, for those listening, we did not have enough time to play everything.
No.
My understanding is that a bunch of these games will be at PAX Unplugged, so maybe we'll have a little bit more time since we'd be there for a whole weekend. But but these games are all games that we'll be talking about more as we, kind of promote their Kickstarters and talk about them more when they are up. So some of this is just kind of a touch point, get you familiar with the names, some basic stuff, and then we're gonna get hype later on because we have a new Kickstarter promotional program that we kind of launched at BFIG to help streamline our process, but also help us more effectively promote Kickstarters. So the last one,
yes,
is Go Gattai, which is it's a miniatures board game, so it's dudes on a map, but
yes.
They are giant robots.
This was super cute. So you're moving around the board, and the element that I found very intriguing with this one is that at certain points in the game, you can actually join together your minifigs to make a bigger creation, and as you do that, you get superpowers.
Guys, listen to what she just said. She just said that it's a board game about robots that are minifigs on a map. And at certain points in the game, you can combine to get superpowers. She didn't just... She said those things. Those are words that actually happened.
Yep.
And I'm really excited. This is coming next year. This is like pre stuff, but it's Breaking Games. Now, anybody that knows us knows that Breaking Games does some good stuff, right? Sparkle Kitty, they did Rise of Tribes. They've got the Trouble with Troubles. They've got a lot of good stuff. This game is going to come to Kickstarter. I'm sure it's going to be crazy. I cannot wait to play this freaking game.
It looks so cute, and it was still in prototype phase, and even at prototype phase, the figs were definitely not polished, but you could see where they were going with them and how they connected, and it looked really fun.
Yeah. This is a Gestalt board game. I mean, Gestalts, because Linda doesn't know. I don't. It, and she's like, what are you talking about? A Gestalt is the idea of a robot that's lots of different parts that come together. So like Voltron is a Gestalt, that kind of thing. The original Gestalt was, at least for me, was Devastator. Those of you that are Transformers fans will know. Linda will not. I'm totally throwing a bunch of words into it.
I know. I remember Devastator.
All right, that's good.
I did not live under the rock totally at that point.
That's fine. That's fine. You went under the rock eventually, and then we got you out from under it.
That's true.
So, not the movie, not the Michael Bay monstrosity Devastator, the one that had testicles. We don't want to talk about that one. I want to talk about like giant green Devastator. So this should be awesome. It felt very Pacific Rim to me. In theme, because it's big robots fighting big monsters. I'm not selling this game because it sounds awesome to me. And again, it's Breaking Games, and they've got a pretty good track record recently with some of their Kickstarter projects. So we will have to keep that one. That's going to be a high profile deal. So if you follow board games anywhere on the internet, you will see more of that as it gets closer. So those are the board games. Were there any that are not on this list that you think were worth like a mention as we kind of close out our time today?
Well, I have 4 there were 2 that I know you went and played. I don't know if you want to touch base on those, and there were 2 others that were food themed that I would figure is worth mentioning.
Which ones are the ones that I played that maybe I want to talk about?
I believe Druid Dice and Record.
All right, so let's talk about Record because it's actually on Kickstarter right now. Record is from Yanaguana Games. Long story short, it's a tile laying kind of. I guess the tile laying is appropriate because you're picking up picks and putting them down on the actual frets of a guitar to make chords and earn points. It is wacky in that they are actual chords designed by an actual guitarist. It's on Kickstarter right now, and I had a lot of fun with it. All the different color picks have different kind of powers. So when you use them, they do different stuff. Like you can move other people's picks. You can, and it's an interesting game. I have played it 2 or 3 times now between CT-FIG and BFIG, and I enjoy it. The theme is a little bit lost on me because I'm not musical. However, I think it is super neat, especially if you are musically inclined. If your family is music-ish. Especially if you enjoy playing the guitar. This game is like right there. It's like the perfect theme. So it is certainly worth looking at. It is on Kickstarter right now. And Druid Dice, that's a game that's available from Geek Fever Games. They're looking for a publisher, but they sell it right now through the Game Crafter. It's a match 3 puzzle game that just happens to involve dice. That sounds crazy, but it actually works. You roll dice and you make an army, and all the matching symbols, you can kind of pick them all up and roll them and, kind of attack your opponent. My son and I played a very balanced game for a very long time, and it was pretty good. There's 2 different decks, or 2 different games that have different powers. There's an advanced mode. There's a lot of replayability in it, and I kind of dig it. It's a Geek Fever Games joint, so they do a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the last 2 that I had as sort of honorable mentions, if you will. Bayonne is one game that I got to go through, and it is Bayonne, the Game of Leftovers. It is a Filipino food-themed game.
Oh, what?
And yes, it. I could not say something about this one. So the idea, and different families will definitely relate to this. It's all about going to mom's house or grandma's house and how they make way too much food. So any Polish or Italian family, apparently it's a Filipino family thing, probably many other cultures as well, where you go to mom's, go to grandma's, and they cook so much food and they make you take tons home. So the idea is you have to build leftover containers of different foods, and you have to build the best leftovers to take home.
Okay.
It was super cute, and it's neat because it's the Filipino themed food, so it kind of has this like social studies aspect where you can learn about the cultural food. And there was some cards that came up, but literally was like grandma standing there on the card, and it was just really fun and light.
Sure.
This is a game that's coming to Kickstarter in the spring of this coming year. They have successfully published another game previously, so this is not their first game development. So this is one that it's really light and fun, and a lot of people can relate to it because most of us have, auntie or grandma or mom that insists on feeding us excessively.
Yeah, we all know somebody that. We all have somebody in our family that doesn't know how to cook for 5 people.
Exactly.
Sure.
So that one was just something fun and one to watch. And the final one I just wanted to kind of throw out there is a game called Takeout, another food one. This is a Chinese food themed game. It's all about building sets of food. The premise on this one is that you don't speak the language at all, so you have to figure out how to communicate without that piece of common language. Okay. So that was really neat. This one is actually out and published, and they actually gave me a sample so that I can be reviewed. So that is something I will be playing and writing up
soon.
Forthcoming.
Sure.
So that is on the to-do list.
So that's it.
That's it.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. It was
and that's
a lot.
not even it. I mean, we've got a lot more, but we'll be talking about those, many of them in writing as we get further along in the year. So you'll have to forgive us, folks. Both Linda and I are not quite on death's door, but we are still recovering from this past week. So She has her tea. I'm going to go get my tea. But this will draw our time on the podcast to a close. Linda.
Yes.
It has been a pleasure having you on. Obviously, we'll have to have you on again now that we know your microphone works.
Excellent.
Everybody
Hopefully
out there, both of us need our voices to be better. So everybody out there, I'd like to thank you for listening to Engage, a Family Gaming podcast this week. We hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed recording it. We'll be back next week for more discussion on video games. Specifically, man, there's been a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about the Switch a little bit. We're going to talk about some PC games coming up. And we're going to be getting ready to talk about the big games coming out this holiday. Also, how crazy is this, Linda? This is a little tease for next week. How about Assassin's Creed Origins has a discovery mode where they remove all combat, all challenge, all everything, and it's just a guided tour of ancient Egypt. What do you think about that?
That sounds absolutely amazing. I want to check that out.
Yeah, well, we will. I will be streaming the hell out of that because I'm very interested. So for those, we're going to be talking about that next week. Until next time, this is Steven and Linda signing off and reminding you to get your family game on. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Engage, a family gaming podcast.